I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. As Congress is set to return from its summer recess, MAGA Republicans are in a full-blown civil war with one another, with one group of MAGA Republicans with Ken Buck calling out the other group of MAGA Republicans with Marjorie Taylor Greene. In this radio interview that MAGA Republican Ken Buck just gave, he tells the interviewer that Marjorie Taylor Greene, another MAGA Republican who's been kicked out of the Freedom Caucus, apparently she did not learn about the Constitution in her CrossFit class and those videos that she's posting. And Ken Buck, again, MAGA Republican, says that Marjorie Taylor Greene and others seem more obsessed with their social media accounts than actually doing things. Am I agreeing with Ken Buck? Here, play this interview.
Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said, we played the sound yesterday, that she's like, I'm not voting for any budget bill, no continuing resolution, nothing that doesn't involve the defunding of Jack Smith's special counsel office and everything that he's doing. Do you feel similarly about that issue as you do to defunding the FBI and the ATF and the DEA, et cetera?
So George, when I was teaching law school, I learned and taught certain constitutional principles. When Marjorie Taylor Greene was teaching CrossFit, she learned a whole different set of values, evidently, because my idea of what this country should be like is based on the Constitution. And she sees the world differently. She's criticized me for voting to certify the election in 2020. The Constitution says Congress shall count the votes. It doesn't say Congress may overturn an election result. It doesn't say Congress can do whatever the heck it wants with this election. Shall count the votes. That's what the Constitution says. In her CrossFit class, maybe they didn't cover that. And it also, the Constitution also says that the impeachment of a president shall be based on treason, high crimes, misdemeanors. It doesn't say it's a political exercise,
right?
And we hope that it does the right thing. And so I get tired of people. One of the beauties of Congress is you bring 435 people together from different backgrounds, and you try to reach a consensus on issues. When you've got people who care more about their social media accounts than they do about the Constitution, we have a real problem in Congress.
So let me be very clear. I disagree with Ken Buck on probably just about everything, but fundamentally what he said there in that interview, though, I agree with, and where I find commonality and agree with people who I may disagree with on other issues. It is critical to call out people like Marjorie Taylor Greene for this performative cosplay fascism that she engages in. So what was Ken Buck, MAGA Republican, responding to? Marjorie Taylor Greene has been relentlessly attacking Ken Buck for a variety of issues. One, that Ken Buck is refusing to overtly defund special counsel Jack Smith to help Donald Trump. She's upset that Ken Buck doesn't praise Donald Trump's greatness every single day and pledge obedience to Donald Trump. She's also upset that he's not pursuing an impeachment inquiry against Donald Trump. This right here is from a town hall, very sparsely attended. There are not that many people in the audience at these Marjorie Taylor Greene summer recess town halls, but here she is calling out Ken Buck and saying that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Play this clip.
It is so frustrating seeing other GOP members not doing anything to support Trump. I agree with that. Do they not understand if they succeed getting Trump, they will do it to all GOP candidates in the future? Well, whoever this person is really smart. That's the absolute truth. It's like Pandora's box. As soon as it's opened, right? As soon as it's opened, they're going to come after all of us. Some of them have already called themselves out. Ken Buck is, member of the Freedom Caucus, is on TV. Supposedly he's come around. Don Bacon was one of them, Brian Fitzpatrick, Lawler in New York. There's been multiple members of Congress that in the past months have said they wouldn't vote for an impeachment inquiry. But what I found out in the past couple of days, I think everyone's there. So we're supposed to be getting it in September. We'll see. We'll see.
And here again is Marjorie Taylor Greene on a right-wing media network going after Ken Buck again. Play this clip.
John, only about a minute or so or less. I asked you why we're not proceeding forward with an actual impeachment of the president. The Democrats seem to do it. They did it twice with Trump. They circled the wagon whether or not, they all felt the same way about it. You told me last time there were a few who needed to get on board. You want to name some names?
Well, I think Ken Buck came out publicly and is on record saying that he couldn't vote for an impeachment inquiry, even though he wrote a book called Drain the Swamp. There's some others that have come forward and said they wouldn't vote for it. But I think after today, Eric, this had to move the needle. Finding out, in fact, that Joe Biden lied had to move the needle. You remember, Richard Nixon was proven that he lied. That's when Congress started to move towards impeachment before he resigned. President Bill Clinton, it was proven that he lied, and that's when Congress started moving towards impeachment. So today, I think, was a huge revelation that should push any Republican member that isn't there yet that, hey, it's time to take that vote for impeachment inquiry.
You got a congressperson that doesn't want to vote for impeachment after all we do know, and more evidence keeps piling up. You need to call your congressman. I know one that you don't need to call because she's ready to impeach tomorrow. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric.
And then before Ken Buck gave that interview that I played, Marjorie Taylor Greene did this whole tweet thread where she says that she is appalled at a factually wrong and out of touch letter written by Freedom Caucus member Ken Buck about the treatment of January 6 defendants. And Marjorie Taylor Greene goes on this tweet thread to talk about how unfairly the January 6th insurrectionists are being treated. She claims that she witnessed unusually cruel punishment of January 6 defendants and that she has grave concerns. She believes these are human rights violations. The January 6 defendants are being treated, that's what's just called jail. That's what jail is. And in a letter where all these MAGA Republicans in Colorado attacked Ken Buck based on the types of statements Marjorie Taylor Greene was making and saying that Ken Buck is not supportive of the January 6th insurrectionists, Ken Buck actually responded, for example, to the vice chairman of the El Paso County Republican Party, and he said the following: "You recently sent me by email a letter concerning the treatment of January 6 defendant while in federal custody. I understand that your letter was electronically forwarded to the Colorado GOP Central Committee, and in reliance on the statements contained in your email, more than 200 members of the Central Committee have signed indicating full concurrence and support. It appears that this letter was generated to request action by the Colorado Republican members of the House of Representatives. I write in response and caution that I represent only my views. The letter makes a number of factually incorrect claims and then proceeds to overstate the threat to our republic based on these false claims. There has been significant misinformation proliferated on the internet about the status of the January 6 defendants, and I assume these internet rumors are the source for much of the incorrect information contained in the letter. I hope this response will help clarify the situation and you will cease disseminating false information. Your letter claims, for instance, that hundreds of individuals have been detained without bond for misdemeanor offenses or detained pending federal charges. In reality, no defendants have been jailed pending charges. All were charged prior to arrest and detention. The number of detainees has fluctuated, with the number of cases brought and resolved from 56 detainees in the spring of 2021 to 40 in the fall of 2021 and 20 in the spring and summer of 2023. Of those still currently held in custody, 85% are charged with assaulting law enforcement officers, a felony. The remainder are charged with conspiracy or possession of a deadly weapon on Capitol grounds, also felonies. All pretrial detainees are provided with hearings to determine bond and are only held without bond if the court determines that they are a danger to the community, a flight risk, or a high risk of obstructing justice. Your statement that January 6 defendants have been detained without bond for misdemeanor offenses is also pure fiction. All defendants held without bond at any point were charged with felonies. If you believe that I am relying on incorrect data, please provide me with the names of January 6 defendants who have been detained without bond for misdemeanor offenses or pending federal charges. And he goes on in a very data-driven letter to say, you're just providing incorrect information. And, this also reminds me of like where you see, MAGA Republican leaders like Charlie Kirk basically saying this is the regime and the regime is engaged in all of this behavior. And it's like, especially Charlie Kirk most recently was complaining that the Biden regime just sentenced the Proud Boys terrorist Enrique Tarrio to 22 years in prison for a riot that he was not present at for plotting to overthrow the government without followers carrying a single firearm. And then, as the great response to this was, Biden regime, LOL. The judge who sentenced Tarrio is Timothy J. Kelly, a Trump appointee, former counsel to Chuck Grassley, and a member of the Federalist Society. A lot of these judges are Trump-appointed judges. What's this? The Biden regime? These are Trump-appointed federal judges. And so, look, I disagree with Ken Buck on mostly all issues. He's a member of the Freedom Caucus, but MAGA Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene, unfortunately, Ken Buck, they are the representative of what the Republican Party has become. And I know that you're criticizing people in your party who care more about social media, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, than actually doing things. But that's frankly every one of these MAGA Republicans. I mean, you got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene out there each and every day spreading deranged conspiracy theories, very dangerous conspiracies, and are just not being serious people. Like, we need politicians to be serious adults. And the MAGA Republicans simply are not. And this as they return back to Congress. And there are major issues about funding our government. Again, we see them talking about woke this and taking away gas stoves and taking away our beers and just like a bunch of ridiculous stuff coming from one side, the Republican Party, the MAGA Republican Party side. But anyway, this is what they are up to while Democrats are actually focused on issues, jobs and Social Security and healthcare and so on. Anyway, go to MeidasTouch.com for more. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe on our YouTube. Help us get to 2 million subscribers. Have a great day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.